Kia ora. Where do you store random objects of potential practicality? The batteries, plasters and paper clips you accumulate in life. This podcast is pretty much that place. You have opened the audio drawer. Here we're hoarding recordings for New Zealand Baptists, because one day this episode could be just the thing. Big, medium or small? Does one eldership model fit old churches? What are some of the options? Where does the pastor fit into all this? Charles Hewlett talks to Reti Avoa and Grant Harris about models of eldership. Reti is an elder at Mangere Bridge Baptist Church and regional leader of the Northern Baptist Association. She is of Samoan Chinese and Cook Island descent. Grant is the senior pastor at Windsor Park Baptist Church. He was a banker before God led a change of career. Grant is also chaplain to the Sky City NZ Breakers Basketball Club and chair of several boards. Find additional resources including discussion questions at lifelonglearning.nz/elders. This recording is from the Better Church Elders video series. Thanks to the Carey Centre for Lifelong Learning for producing this free resource.
Reti and Grant, it's really good to be able to talk with you about models of eldership. You both come from very different churches, I guess ethnic makeup, size, socio-economically. Can you maybe start with you, Reti? Can you tell us a little bit about the church that you're part of and the eldership makeup there?
Sure. So our church is around 60 adults, fluctuates between 40 and 80 I guess, and about 20-something children. We are a multi-ethnic church, so the makeup is about 40% Māori or Pacifica or other minorities and 60% Pākehā. We're from our area has a mixed wealth base, so but generally we're on the more affluent side of Mangere. Our eldership is made up of our pastors and up to 5 elders. Currently we're operating with 3, as well as the Treasurer Secretary who operates as an ex officio to the eldership team. So together they make up the eldership team.
How are your elders selected? Okay,
so the elders are selected at AGM. So we're actually just in that process right now. The church is given about 2 months' notice that we're leading up to an AGM, and then we are also given an opportunity to then nominate people to stand for the eldership. Usually we have a rotation of with 5 elders, half of them being available to be re-elected and half of them staying on. And so everyone then serves a 2-year term so that there is some continuity each year. So when we want a nomination, you approach the person you'd like to nominate first and make sure they're available and willing. And then there's a form to complete and you'd sign that. Along with instructions for eldership, we're given biblical texts and expectations of an elder from a biblical perspective, and also what the expectations might be from the church, from them as they operate as an elder. So that's the process that we go, and then they're voted in at AGM, and they must be nominated by 2/3 of the members who are present.
Grant, what about your situation?
Yeah, so we're slightly different context than Reti. We have a church on the north shore of Auckland, so some of the more affluent areas of New Zealand, in fact. So some would say a wealthy area, but a very mixed area, so an expensive area for people to live generally, which creates its own pressures. Ethnically mixed like Reti, but a totally different mix, probably about 30% South African. Some of our area is very strong in South Africans. Now about 25% Asian, and predominantly within that category Chinese, so a high area of immigration in the East Coast Bays. And then maybe 40% of European people, again from mixed places. So I guess ethnically mixed but very different, very low on the North Shore of Māori and Pacifica people. In our church, very few. In fact, on the shore, very few. So ethnically diverse but different. Large church, so we run about 1,000 people on a Sunday across our adults and children, so a congregation of probably 1,500, 1,700, something like that, across the generations. and so a whole different set of challenges as far as the size goes. And so our elders, we run a team of 8 elders, all volunteers, and we're just about to increase that to 10 actually for various reasons that we have had to work through recently. Again, people that are part of the church, all volunteers, all voted by our members at our AGM annually. So the similar sort of process as far as people either putting their hands up or we go out looking for people, and harder than you think in a congregation that size to find the people that have the availability, that have the right skills, that have the mana within the community, and the skills of working within a team. We're very strong on this as an elders team, so we more look at the combined team of elders and what they bring to the table rather than an individual. How will somebody fit into that and what do they bring to that as far as our perspectives? So voted on at our AGM, which is normally in March of every year.
So does one type of eldership have to fit all churches? What would your reflections be on that?
I think the eldership team has to reflect the needs of the congregation, the needs of the church. It could be dependent on size, it could be dependent on your resources. Do you have a part-time or do you have full-time pastors or other staff on the team? It could be what is the complexity of the business of church, you know. You might have quite a simple model, you could have quite a multifaceted model. It could be things around your demographics, you know, what does your socioeconomics or what does your age mix up? So I think what's most important is that the model you have is right for your church,
And I think the challenge with that, when you say is right for your church, is working through that process of saying, well, what is right for our church?
That's right.
I think the old adage is that in the New Testament, it's not particularly clear how the church was structured, so we've evolved that in our own ways across different denominations into what we think is right for who we are. But asking that very question, so what is right for us? How do we want to lead? How does this fit into our mission? How does that link to the pastor and their role? And there'll be different pastors with different skills as well. So beginning at that very basic level of saying, who are we and how is this going to work in the communities that we serve, I think is very important.
And there might be changes too in your church. So like you, we're looking to we've just increased our elders to 5, and that was a reflection of our growth. And also we've worked really hard to get some diversity in our eldership, so around age and gender and also ethnicity. So we've worked hard at that. So so those are other factors to consider as well.
Grant, maybe can you think of a couple of unique things about your church that perhaps influences the way your eldership functions?
Yeah, I think probably what is unique, and it would be reasonably general, I think, within larger churches, in that our elders are very strong in this differentiation between governance and management. So whenever our elders start talking about some of the functional aspects of our church, we're always very quick to say, you know what, that's not our role. Our role as elders, and I sit as part of that, our role as elders is to be the spiritual governance team, the overseers of all of who we are and how that's going. So we don't talk about colours of carpet and things like that, but I guess one of the differences for us from having pastored a smaller church as well is I guess the responsibility that is placed, I guess, in my hands as senior pastor, but also in our pastoral team. For example, my role was the only role that the church votes on. So most other churches would vote on every pastoral position and some of them on every staff position. So my role is the only one that the elders get involved in specifically. And then delegation is passed down to me and my team to be able to do appointment of other staff. So other pastors are my responsibility. Now I invite the elders to be part of that, but it's not specifically their responsibility. They don't get involved in all the detail around property development, for example. They will say, we're good with this, let's look at this, and then it'll be delegated out to other people. So I guess for us, uniquely, our elders don't get involved in a lot of those operational aspects.
Riti, what about a uniqueness maybe of your church that influences the way elders function?
Yeah, so in the past we only had a part-time pastor, so 0.3 actually, and now we have a couple who are operating one full-time pastorship, so 2 pastors operating on 1 full-time salary. So when we had a pastor, and they're the only employed or salaried staff we have, everyone else, helpers and leaders, are all volunteers. So when we only had a pastor available to us a day and a half, although obviously he did far more than that for us, in that setting, the elders were given roles of oversight over the different ministry areas. Now, that wasn't about how they delivered it every time, unless they were also the ministry team leader. It was just to give ministry team leaders someone that they could go to raise issues or concerns with that needed to be escalated to the eldership to be aware of. Now we have a full-time pastorship. That's actually changed. So previously under the old model, we operated more like a management team, I'd say. But now that we have a full-time pastorship, they've now taken over the responsibility of oversight of all the ministry areas, trying to free up the eldership to move more into governance so that they are being able to see more the big picture, or to actually be part of developing the vision of the church. So that's something that's changed for us.
Yeah, I think uniquely as you grow and develop like that, and that's really what we just said before, it's about looking at your structure or how your elders function things. So what's right for our time and how does that work out? So one of the reasons why we're wanting to increase our numbers of elders now is, like many churches, we have 3 other entities that are part of our church. So my heart is very much to make sure that they are one. I mean, these are ministries that are developed out of the church, our mental health trust, our businesses, our new life care initiative that we're doing. And so it's so important to me that an elder sits on one of those other boards as well, because we need to remember, and it's just hard work and repetition, that we say to the church, while it's are separate legal entities and they're doing their mission, we are combined. This is the church. They are the church. So we want to make sure that our elders are represented on those 3 other boards for us. And so we're increasing our numbers because we're not only asking some people to join our elders with that commitment, we're asking some of them also to join another board with that commitment. So for the reasons that you identified earlier, we want to make sure that we are diverse, men and women, age, ethnicities, but then we're also looking for some specific skills on top of that. So there's some real challenges as you continue to evolve.
I'm interested to hear how in your situations the pastor relates to the elders. Maybe we could start with you, Reti.
Sure. So previously we've looked to the pastor to be the holder of the vision of the church and to give direction and leadership. And so really the eldership were really there to endorse or affirm the direction, or actually to hold them accountable or to critique the direction that they were giving. Currently, so our new pastors just started in February, so we're still trying to bed this in. So now what they're trying to encourage the elders to do is to actually, like I say, engage and be part of the formation of the vision. So what that currently means is that if the pastors or an elder notices something, maybe something that needs to be addressed or celebrated maybe, or encouraged in our congregation, then they would bring that to the eldership meeting. And then they would actually pray over that and just try to discern whether God is saying, okay, this is something we need to do something about. And if the eldership team agree that yes, this is something that we'd like to address, then they will affirm the pastors to then go about to implement a strategy or solution for that. And then once they actually implement a solution, over 3 subsequent eldership meetings, they will review it and give feedback on how do they feel, is it addressing the thing that we needed to address. And so in that way, it's about journeying together. And so Graham and Grace, they're our new pastors, they're working off a model of team leadership. And they're using this quote, it's probably a whakatauki somewhere, about if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go as a team. And so they really are quite happy to go incrementally as long as we're all tuning together.
How do your elders hold the pastors accountable, Reti?
Yeah, well, I think it is at those review meetings, or it could be more frequently. So there could be a hot topic that they're needing to work through, and so that would be something that they would be in email and phone contact and face-to-face contact, or we would be talking about. That might be something outside the monthly eldership meeting. So that definitely there is that forum there, and the first forum would be the eldership meeting, and then any subsequent short meetings.
Yeah, Grant, in your situation as pastor, how do you relate to your elders?
Yeah, so I've always treated my elders effectively as my employers. The elders are appointed by the members to govern the church, And so I've always treated that group as being the ones that I'm accountable to. So as much as I'm part of them, my attitude has always been, I'm serving the church through the elders. So I'm not that kind of dictatorial leader that says this is what we're doing. Everything that we do, vision-wise or for the future, in my understanding, is part of the elders' responsibility to be able to sign off and agree with. So whenever I talk about anything that is coming up for us as a church, any big initiative or development or whatever we're doing, it's always the elders have decided that we're doing this. So I serve the elders and I take that responsibility quite seriously. So keeping them informed of what we do. So we meet monthly and I'm purposeful about in between that month, keeping them up to date with things that are going on. And so, yeah, as their servant, as their, I guess, the one that's working out the vision that we come up with. So I guess a tangible expression of that in the last 12 months, or just over 12 months ago, with our other 3 entities, we felt that it was really important that we have a combined vision statement, that we wanted to be on the same page about what we're achieving, that all of our ministries are part of the church. So what does that mean to us? So we spent the best part of 6 or 8 months talking amongst our boards, and the elders drove this process to say, how do we meet in a commonality around our vision statement? And we ended up with that at the end. And it's clear in our organisation that this was an elder-driven response. It was important to the elders because ultimately everything reports back through our elders and reports back through to the members, because in our ecclesiology, accountability is very strong. Everything goes back to the members. So for me, I serve the church through the elders as my approach.
Yeah. Do you expect your elders to pastorally care for you?
Yes and no. Yeah. I think as a leader, I also have a responsibility to be able to manage myself. And I think in our context, I guess we're in a relatively affluent, high-performing area. Very different to where I served before in Taranaki, which was very provincial New Zealand, which I loved as well. But in this context, I guess a lot of our elders are busy people doing their thing. So yes, there is an expectation that they would do that for me, but I also take the responsibility to care for myself seriously as well. My 2 expressions as a pastor was in New Plymouth, we didn't have a chair of elders, and I chaired it and ran it. And then when I shifted to this larger context, I thought that would be the way that I would continue to do it, except that this church already had a chair. And after a couple of meetings, I thought, this is great. I love having a chair. It takes the pressure off me a lot. So we have a chair, and I meet with them monthly for lunch, pre-elders meetings, and predominantly is, I guess, his responsibility right now to make sure I'm okay. And they do that. They check up on me.
Really, be good to hear you reflect on, as an elder, what would you most want from your pastor?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, what I want my pastor or pastors to be working on is their love for Jesus and their love for the Bible. That's paramount. And then because they're married, their love for each other, critical to us as a church. And then that they are actively sitting with the Lord and seeking and discerning from Him our formational direction as a church, and then also our missional thrust for our church and for our local community. Also, I guess we are expecting them to be honest, like if they're struggling, they need to tell us. If we haven't noticed it ourselves, we hope that we have enough trust in there for and enough love for them to be able to tell us if there's something going wrong that's wrong, or something that's not quite good for them. And then, of course, I really enjoy being supported and encouraged by them as well. Yeah, that's what I've been.
Yeah, and from the other side, Grant, what do you most want from your elders?
Yeah, so I think there'd be 3 words for me that I seek. So it'd be engagement, transparency, and honesty. I love my elders to engage in what's going on. Now, I accept that they're volunteers, they have their own lives, they have all their different things that they're involved in, and in a church, I guess our size and our complexity, there's always lots going on. So I probably struggle sometimes to get the full engagement that I would probably want, but I encourage it. I say, you guys are welcome to contribute to anything that's going on. This is your role to be able to engage with these things as we talk, as you see things. I want to know about that. And that's transparency also. I want them to be honest with me about the stuff that they see. When you're trying to form a team of people that represents the wider church, you want to hear their views. For example, we recognised last year that we didn't have somebody that represented the more seniors in our church. So this year we appointed an elder who's 72 years old. because we need to hear that voice around the table, and we need to understand what their views are. So transparency around what they see, what they experience in the church. And then I think for me personally, it's honesty. Yeah, I want to know how I'm going. I want to know when the challenges arise. Right at the start of every time the twice that I've started in the church, I've said to them, I don't want to stay too long. If you guys kind of feel that I'm out of line with the direction of the church, or that I'm not the right person for now, I need to hear that voice, because I'm here to serve the church, and my security is not tied up in my title. So I want the church to prosper. So I need you guys to be honest with me. And that's easier said than done, I think, for elders. I think that's a challenge for them. But this year at our church, the elders ran a church-wide survey of how we're going, and there was a bunch of questions in there that specifically related to me, and it was interesting. At the start of that, I was like, this could be interesting. Came out positively, which is lovely, but that was an elder-driven questions to the church. We want to be honest around who we are and how we're going and what you guys think. So I definitely want honesty.
Thanks, Reti. Thanks, Grant. This has been very helpful for us. May God bless your churches.